So I made a series of videos where I talked about the console market basically taking third place to PC, mobile being the first. In this particular, scenario, I already saw that if it didn't make any sense for console manufacturers who were making exclusive games anyways to leave their games on one platform. The PC platform just had a lot of people there. It made sense to go sell software there. Now, a lot of people have basically, held this perception that every platform needs to have its exclusives as its identity. But the challenge with that is the cost of making these games is no longer the same as it was back in the day, number one. And number two, the competition has finally caught up. You see, PlayStation is not the only one that can make beautiful looking games. There are many studios that are capable of doing it. There are now tools that actually allow for you to do it. You don't have to go get all kinds of crazy licenses. You don't have to hire the best of engineers. Epic Games has already done most of the work for you. This is Hogwarts Legacy made in Unreal Engine 4, a game engine that children can now download on their gaming PCs. It's crazy. The Fortnite kids can basically run the engine that made this game. So technology has actually sped up so fast that no longer do we have or do we need any of these publishers to have big hardware manufacturer type money or access to their investment to be able to make games that captivate people who are playing them. What this means is PlayStation, its exclusives are going to continue to face much stiffer competition down the road. And in Xbox's case, they don't even necessarily have the library already stocked up. They now have to build the library and have had to go spend billions of dollars buying it with Bethesda and Activision and all that stuff before they can even bring these games that are now also going to go compete with the third-party publishers as well. But they've tried to hedge themselves at least. They've gone, with Game Pass. They're trying their best to basically do what it is that they can. And you can tell that there is right now a huge struggle in terms of how the console market is going to move ahead. Now, when I say this or when I put this in front of people, it's always nice to show some metrics, some data, and apparently the projections for the PC market looks very healthy for the next few years. And I highlighted this in my other video because this is just the reality. Lenovo themselves shipped 81, okay? Listen to me. They shipped 81 million computers in 1 year. That's just Lenovo. That's not Dell. That's not Apple. That's not Acer. That's not Asus. That's just one manufacturer. Not saying they shipped 81 million gaming PCs. Don't get me wrong. But you can't tell me that Lenovo, who is actually a big gaming PC maker or a maker of PCs that usually get converted into gaming PCs, though some of you don't even know this tech. There's another tech to be able to build a console killer for very, very little. I haven't even shown you guys yet. A lot of people are going to be mad at me when I show you guys this tech. You're not going to be happy. If you thought, we were doing a $650 build and all that stuff, you've not seen anything yet. I'm about to make a $400 build and you're not going to like what you see, but we'll get there soon. Just, fasten your seatbelt. The ride, it's going to be very bumpy when we start showing, the facts. And when you think about this, it's very, very interesting to me that one of my audience members had to say, all right, if you say the console market is basically, taking the back seat, how in the world is console going to survive then? Well, it's very simple. They're going to survive by actually making changes to the way they do things. So here's one of my audience members, Mr. Jiggery Poker. He finally asked me and said, okay, you said this, but how do you think the console market is going to survive? I'm glad you finally have decided to ask the real pressing question. Because we started this conversation with, Xbox seems to be making these strides, but I've been getting pushback from everybody else. Well, there are all these hurdles. There are all these things. But when PlayStation came out and said, we're not going to be able to sell 25 million, we're only going to sell 21 million for our projections, and things are much slower, seems everybody finally, decided to listen. Because now the proof is in the pudding. It's very simple for PlayStation. They just have to commit to one model. But there's a problem with one of the models that that they have an option to commit to, and that hindrance probably pushes them to the other extreme, and I'll explain very simply. So let's go ahead and look at Nintendo's model. Why is Nintendo flexing? What's going on with Nintendo? Well, Nintendo, being the healthiest of the three in terms of revenue, expenses, and profit margin, is doing everything correctly. Like, number one, their consoles actually bring in profit on sales. When they make their console, they will sell each unit for a profit. Yes, things will go on sale. Some might go, at a loss or whatever, whenever they're trying to bring people into the ecosystem. But their entire business model for the handheld, and I'd say console, but it is a handheld, that entire business model is not dependent on subsidizing the hardware. Whereas in the case of Xbox and PlayStation, the hardware is subsidized. So the PlayStation 5 was selling at a loss for the $499 version. Eventually, that loss came down. There was an article to that effect, but we haven't heard anything else. So we must assume that it's probably maybe only breaking even or still sold at a loss. And the digital version, even at the time that they reported that it wasn't selling at a loss, was still selling at a loss. The Xbox Series X and S both also sell as a loss because Phil Spencer basically concluded that it's anywhere from $100 to $200 every time they sell a console. So they have to either go ahead and say, we're going to sell these consoles for the amount of money that we're making them, but that would then shoot them in the foot twice. And I'll explain. The companies that make their hardware are also computer hardware parts manufacturing companies. One of them being AMD, or the major one being AMD, who is very good at pricing at the mid-range and the low range for people who are coming into entry-level computing and entry-level gaming. So basically, AMD is making them their APUs, SoCs, and at the same time competing against them in the market that is dominating the consoles, which is in the PC market. So it's a double edge. Actually, no, it's actually a trident because they're getting stabbed from all sides. It's insane. Can you imagine, okay, man, I want to go make a powerful console. AMD, can you make me one? Sure. Intel, can you make me one? Sure. But then Intel is like, hey, guys, we're making this really affordable CPU that can basically play all your games. They won't say it's better than the console. That probably will be a disparage clause that they've signed. But everybody on YouTube is basically going to say it. They don't have to say it. Linus Tech is going to say it. Hardware Unboxed is going to say it. Gamers Nexus is going to say it. And everyone's going to be like, why am I spending $600 on a PS5 Pro when I can buy a $90 CPU that's going to get the job done? So that's also another challenge. Another challenge is in software competition. Look at Hogwarts Legacy, how pretty this game looks. The game looks fantastic. Very detailed, made in Unreal Engine 4. The technology is now here. You can make this kind of game and everybody can have access to it. No longer do we have to wait for PlayStation to make the most, cinematic looking games or the most high fidelity games. Studios are now capable of doing that and putting it together, and the knowledge is now spreading more and more, and the technologies are being spread more and more to be able to power these games to look very good. So PlayStation does not hold the exclusive anymore for the best looking games. That is attainable and achievable by many teams across the board. And even with their knowledge base that's basically spilled out into the industry, and what I mean by that is maybe PlayStation, developers who work with PlayStation that have gone to work in other studios, that knowledge is now out there. So again, the way this works is, yes, other games are going to be competing with them, but then how about the other games that are just in pure sales, juggernauts and not even as good looking, like Zelda, how it beat Horizon Zero Dawn. Zelda smoked that game. That game has suffered. I feel bad for Guerrilla because for some reason they cannot launch a game without some other game coming in to take their shine. Oh, how about Horizon Forbidden West? Elden Ring smoked it. Do you remember? I mean, you probably didn't even know because Elden Ring was so dominant. There was nothing that came out at the time that did not have to acknowledge that Elden Ring was a game. Okay, how about the PC launch for Horizon Forbidden West? Well, it came out close at the same time as Dragon's Dogma 2. There just is no break. The competition is on. Third-party publishers who sell their games on these platforms are competing with the platform holders on their own turf. This is very important. So what do they need to do to mitigate the software side, seeing that they may not go sell you the hardware for the price that it is? Nintendo is selling you the hardware for, a profit, but PlayStation and Xbox aren't doing that. So they need to sell their software to more people. And the only place that they can actually go sell their software to more people is on the platform that is basically kicking their butt, which is a PC platform. This is why PlayStation sells its games on PC. Whether it sells it day or date or not, it needs to sell it day or date to be able to create a new audience for its titles. And they're already selling their games day and date. I know everyone's gonna be like, but Held Average is just a live service game. Who cares? It's a PlayStation paid for game that has shown up on PC on the very first day. That's one way they can mitigate it. Or they say, no, we're not gonna sell it anywhere else, and our games are gonna maintain this quality and stay on the PlayStation platform. But they cannot afford to do that because unlike Nintendo, there are many third-party publishers already here. Nintendo doesn't have to worry about EA coming to take anybody away with some platform game. They own the platform games. They got Mario. All they got to do is deploy the Mario. I make this joke that in a closet somewhere in Nintendo's office, they have like 20 Mario games ready to go. The moment a big game tries to launch on the Switch, they just got to deploy a Mario game and boom, that game is not going to see the light of day. It's that simple. So they can maintain a closed ecosystem, or they can go the exact opposite route and open it all up. And this is the one thing a lot of people usually fear for. They're like, the console, how is the console going to survive? Because that's their biggest money maker. No, it's not. It's actually their biggest money, their second largest money loser. Their biggest money loser is the fact they're selling the consoles at a discount or at a subsidized rate. But then the fact that they're not selling software enough to be able to keep up with the cost of production, that's also hurting them. So they got to open it all up. And Xbox has opened it up. In fact, Xbox wants to invite PC, storefronts into the Xbox ecosystem. What that's going to do is going to devastate Sony's business if they do not make very, very smart moves. Simple as that. They cannot maintain the exclusivity that will give them the huge increase in their profits without much competition like Nintendo. And then at the same time, start waiting 3 years before they bring a game to a platform where everybody else already is. So those are the two options that the console manufacturers have. Xbox is just the one that's taking the initiative and making the moves fast. PlayStation, on the other hand, is just not talking, but we know that they want to make those moves, but they have to basically keep perception, which is what they've basically sold their brand on. Like, hey, we do things this way, because it's a perception thing. It really is. For the most part, it's your messaging, is the way your brand looks. Xbox doesn't care about the way the brand looks for the most part in the eyes of everyone that wants to be a critic. I mean, they care the way their brand looks, but they want to go out there and they want to win and they want to make money. This is why I champion all the stuff that they're doing, because give it 3 months down the road, PlayStation is going to pick it up, or give it a year or give it 2 years. PlayStation is going to be... See, I don't see PlayStation sitting on $200 million games any longer than a year. You just watch the change happen. It's just one. They're gonna shift it by like 9 months. They're gonna shift it by 8 months. Before you know what's going on, they're gonna tell you, oh, it's Held Average 3. That's what they're gonna tell you. So the formula is right there in front of them. Anyone who thinks otherwise, well, I mean, I guess we just need to sit here and wait and see. But I don't necessarily see how else they're gonna do it, seeing that you have a platform that's just running away with the numbers. Or they start making mobile games. And as for Nintendo, they're not out of the clear, per se, but they have a unique market, position. They have a unique selling point, and they don't face the constraints much that PlayStation and Xbox face. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.